Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I get to help chiropractors make more money, increase their income, their impact, and their enjoyment in practice too. Today's episode is an absolute masterclass in what it takes to be a great student, a great communicator, leader, and a marketer too. My guest on the show today is Dr. Matt Hill. Now, Matt has been working with Tony Ebel for the last 6 years, I think. Now, Tony told me in preparation for this episode that there are many days that Matt is absolutely his most favourite human being in the world. So that's some pretty high praise there as well. In this episode, we talk about what it takes to form strong and lasting relationships between a principal and an associate. We talk about the importance of listening in communication, and Matt shares the marketing strategy that's helping them to reach out to more families right now. I think you're going to love this episode. I adore chatting with Matt. He's an extraordinary human being. Enjoy the show. Matt Hill, welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for having me.
Buddy, it's a pleasure. I've been looking forwards to this chat for a couple of weeks now. Now, before having you come on here, I was talking with Tony, and I said, tell me a little bit about Matt. Tony Ebel, we're talking about, is who you work with, and we'll chat a little bit about Tony today. Now, he said something to me that I think if somebody could say this compliment to me, it might be one of the things I would love people to say. Now, it's going to expletive that's about to come in it. So if you've got your kids listening, block their ears. Tony said he's the best fucking student in the world. What did he mean by that?
Well, that's quite a compliment.
Adjust.
I've had the privilege over the last really 10 years of my life now to be mentored by Tony. And not as a chiropractor, first as a parent. We found him as when he was a pediatric chiropractor for my oldest son, who's 11 now, who is struggling with special needs and really in a tough place for our family. That was back when we only had one kid. Now we have 4. And then growing in that relationship where knowing him well enough where he basically sent me to chiropractic school, where started this journey. We lost a little bit of that connection going through chiropractic school, and then coming back and working with him for the last 6 years. And if anything, I think he just means, because I feel like I absorb a lot. I'm able to absorb a lot from him. And I feel like looking back that him and I now are really on the same wavelength with where we want to go with not only patient care, but our vision and mission and purpose and those things. So it has just been so fun to have him help me grow. And I've seen him grow so much over the past 10 years that it's been really exciting to live life together, not only as doctors and chiropractic mentors, but also just as parents and friends, and our families hang out a ton too.
What does it take to be a great student?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I haven't realized I've really been doing it through the years. But with Dr. Tony, I think sometimes just being present and listening and showing up. I think in school, and I think that student relationships, it evolves as you go. With Tony, at first it was just anytime I could get time with it, as a patient, or if I could ask him a question during the adjustment, or I would catch him at an event. And then when it was in chiro school, it developed to, can I listen and absorb material, absorb data? And now it's become more of a relationship with bouncing ideas and learning and growing. But I don't think I would say not a day, but like a week or month go by where I don't buy one of the same books that he's recommending, or try to dive into some of the same things too, to just stay caught up. And I think both pushing each other is key too.
You've been working with Tony as a chiropractor for how long now?
6 years.
My experience is that often we've had lots of chiropractors that we've had work with us over the last 25 years. And often after that 3 or 4 year mark, there comes a stage when often the baby bird wants to leave the nest. And this can happen in a really lovely way, but often there's a discussion inside, certainly the associate's mind at that stage is like, what do I need you for now? What is it that's allowed you and Tony to have such a wonderful relationship and for that to continue to grow and expand?
I'm going to credit him with this. I think it's because Tony has grown so much and has such a vision that he's always stayed out in front where, when I first started with him, I probably had the same timeline in my head, talking with my wife, if you ask her, is let's do this for 3 to 4 years and see where we're at. Maybe then we'll open our own practice. And I think Tony has such a vision for pediatrics and the impact we can make and how far we can go, that just being with that vision, it's constantly grown and it's been able to grow with me. So that way now I feel like I have just as much growth potential in this relationship, where it's not just now an associate to owner relationship, that we're going to go further places the next 3 years and the next 3 years. So I think that's really helped the most. So from an owner doc standpoint, I think him being supportive, but also having a huge vision that I follow and say, I can see myself in those shoes now, 6 years down the road, 9 years down the road. Helped tremendously.
I was really wondering if that was going to be the case, because I'm fascinated about the relationship that the two of you have. And I think a big part of it, in really sitting and thinking about it, is that a big part that why many of our staff want to leave us after a few years is because there's no growth opportunity anymore. Like that idea of, now whether this is we're not communicating what's in it for them, or maybe often is the case is that there's nothing else in it for them. And so I would wonder too, to our chiropractors that are listening to this, and if your staff turnover, and by staff, I guess probably your CAs as well, like is there a vision for them for growth, but certainly for the chiropractors working for it, like how much have you changed over the last 3 or 4 years? And are you staying ahead of the pace to lead and expand? And the other thing that Tony has done with you as well, and when you talk about that kind of growth, is he's really handed over to you the reins for a lot of things, like in terms of the roles and what you're responsible for inside the practice. You've taken an enormous amount of ownership as well. What has that meant for you in terms of your growth? And tell me a little bit about how that has kind of helped you stay excited and continue on the journey.
Yeah, I think it's really happened naturally. I think whenever you start in a new position, whether it be an associate role or a CA role, the first year or two, you're just head down. And I think you have to be that way. You have to be head down. I'm going to do my job well. And then eventually, I think year 2, 3, I started to become very much so where I was the example and people were coming to me and asking questions. And I think naturally you fall into more of a leader role, especially as we've hired new docs now on over the past couple of years, not because of so much turnover. We've lost a couple of docs, but we've also grown the team where now there's more associates on the team that we've had and more CAs, and they look to you as more of an example. And so that leadership comes naturally in a way, but I will say you have to embrace that, and you have to embrace that in the sense of I'm not, and we don't run our practice like this at all, where it's by any means the leader sits up here. We're a team, but you're also encouraging, you're walking them through it, you're building them up, you're creating ownership opportunities for that team, and just creating it almost like a roundtable style. I like to say it's a lot of being encouragers and not so much enforcers. And I don't think we have to do a whole lot of that on our team, whether that's because we have a big mission and vision and we're all on the same page. But I credit not only Tony and Christina, who set the culture, but just our entire leadership team, myself, Jackie, and Jackie's the leader of the CAs really in our office, who set a culture that we're going to stay humble, we're going to stay hungry, and we're going to stay heart-centered. Like that's kind of our role model in the office of whenever we hire someone, that's who we're looking for. And whenever, honestly, that humility side breaks, that's when it hurts any of us, is when we become more important than the team and the mission. It gets that balance out of whack, and then you can't really lead, and then it becomes really hard to be a leader.
There are a lot of things. Before we hit the record button, you're telling me this weekend there's a bunch of docs that are flying in. I think you said kind of 20 practices or 20 teams, 50 odd, that you are helping to train this weekend for the pediatric experience. There's a lot that you do both for the practice and outside the practice. that many associates might think, man, I'm not doing that. That's not part of my role. And or many chiropractors would be saying, man, I wish I could get that level of engagement out of, the staff that are working for me. What has allowed you to stay focused and want to keep on pushing above and beyond? What is it about the relationship that you and Tony have that has meant that you have constantly wanted to do things like that?
It's interesting. When I first got into chiropractic, I don't think I imagined that this would be my path. I was comfortable just seeing patients and going that realm of it. But the opportunity really presented itself for this, and it's something I love to do, but it's also something that I've always had a motto of saying yes. Like let's say yes to things. Even if I'm not really good at it, even if it's out of my comfort zone. And Tony's good at doing that, of putting me in a position, or putting any of us in positions that are maybe a little bit right here when we know we're right here. But he knows by doing that, he's going to push us there. So I still remember in practice, I think it was my first week in practice, and the doc that was training me at the time, and training me to actually, because she was leaving and opening her own practice. I think she either got sick or was out early. So I had, 6 or 8 reports lined up in one day, day 2 reports of really tough cases. And I remember thinking that day, oh, Tony's probably going to come in and cover this and do it. And Tony's like, he just texted me that morning, be like, you got this, right? Actually, it was the day before. He's like, you got this, like, you're good, like, you've been trained. And believe me, I felt way over my head with it, but I think I didn't sleep much that night. I spent a ton of time prepping, and I went in, and it went great. But I think I needed those experiences of throwing me in, saying yes to something, even though I felt a little intimidated by it at first, because that has so helped me to just gain more confidence and gain things like that. I mean, the second thing is, honestly, whatever level you're at, and I've really seen this in my own life, when you move up to that level, for me, it was really hard when it became teaching other chiropractors. That was really hard for me. I've been in practice for 5-6 years now, which is not long at all. I'm a baby when you talk to a lot of docs, if you go to homecomings and events like that. So it was very much a feeling of imposter syndrome, that who am I to teach these other docs these things of people who have been in practice for so long. And so I think not only going at it with the humility side of it, but saying to myself and having that confidence and certainty to step into that. One of my favorite quotes, Dan Sullivan worked with me on this in a mastermind that I'm in. It's God doesn't call the qualified, but he qualifies the called. And I remember putting that on the mirror in my bathroom and just being like, okay, every morning I'm doing something today that scares me, of someone who's practiced way longer, and I'm going to be giving them advice or talking to them, but I'm going to be qualified. And now doing this for 2 years on our anniversary of the pediatric experience, feel good. But again, you can't get comfortable, because there's a new level of where we need to go, and not only personal growth, but our mission to serve more kids in pediatrics who so desperately need it with chiropractic care.
What's the current challenge ahead of you that's having you feel like an imposter at the moment? Where is it that you're feeling unqualified that you're needing to step into?
Oh man, that's such a good question. I think, honestly, it's transitioned a lot to leadership, and not only leadership of just other chiropractors, but really leadership of growth, of how do we scale. We've had some really great growth with the pediatric experience, in terms of memberships and really being able to pour into people and have these relationships. But our goal is, in our mission, is to help millions of kids. And so over the next 2 years, as we transition to train these offices to have them attract to more parents, how do I get more comfortable and to be honest, better at communicating the story of chiropractic, and how do I make that story simple and inviting and giving them answers to better communicate to parents and chiropractors alike, so that we can continue to grow with our mission. So getting out of that comfort zone and just taking it to a new level, to really impact parents. And a lot of that comes down to what you do on on this podcast of not only marketing your practice, but telling the chiropractic story through that marketing in the right ways to get great engagement and relate to moms and have them be comfortable telling their story back and to reach large audiences.
The other thing that Tony mentioned about you, and this has come up a number of times too, is he's also referred to you as a master communicator. What makes a master communicator, do you think? What is it that allows you to be a great communicator?
When I personally think of myself, maybe this is the imposter syndrome, but I don't feel like I'm that great at it. You'll hear me say, heck, in this podcast, you hear me say, a lot, like a lot, stumble over my own words. So it's definitely not the beauty or the eloquence of communication by any means. I don't think I'm a master orator. I have trouble pronouncing people's names when it comes to that. I think it really comes down to listening and relating. And I think some of that I'm blessed because of, and it's become the blessing in my life because of my story of how I started as a dad that had a ton of questions about health, didn't know much of anything. And, it was a big skeptic of not only chiropractic, but anything, medical world, holistic world, everything that could help my kid. And so in a way, I've had to unpack that so much in my own mind. And I feel like I can relate really well to a lot of the moms and dads that come into practice about what they're looking for. And then to be honest, relating to them by simplifying that message. I think a lot of times we get very, very heavy neuro. And this is where Tony and I are so different is, he can spout off science for hours, but it takes me, I have to look at the science he's teaching me and say, okay, how do I unpack this and help my brain understand it? And then I can explain it to more and more mom and dads.
I think the more and more I think about communication, I think there was something that you articulated really nicely, which I hadn't thought about. Being a great communicator doesn't necessarily mean being a great orator, although that could be part of it as well. And when somebody is a master at listening, and when somebody is a master at relating, there are a whole bunch of barriers that come down straight away that connect to people. And then it almost doesn't matter after that. So if I feel, even if you and I are speaking a different language, literally French and English, they're two. If I get a sense that you're really trying to listen to me and there's a connection that happens, all of a sudden there's a bond there. And I think we flat out get hung up way too much on the words. I don't think the words matter nearly as much as what we think they do. And often, just to kind of double tap on it again for our listeners, too often you're focused on the external part of communication. What am I saying? And I find it fascinating that you talked about the listening side of it first there as well. I think that's really a superpower. Let's talk a little bit about marketing, because that's a lot of what you do for the practice there. What's your journey with marketing been like? Was it something that came easy to you? And then can you share a little bit about what your responsibilities are for marketing the practice?
Yeah, absolutely did not come easy to me. Like I would dare say the majority of people listening, when I click the live button on Facebook or Instagram TV, it's gotten a little easier now, but when I first did, a lot of nerves with that. And so I wasn't used to marketing. I don't think I'd ever done a live video or any type of recorded speech or anything like that before I came into chiropractic. And Dr. Tony, he lives in the marketing world. So I think that's kind of an expectation to live up to his tutelage is, I need to become a great marketer. And how it really started was me just getting my feet wet and just doing. I remember we started in the practice doing these Tuesday morning coffee chats. And what that was is it was a live Facebook live video where we'd start the camera up, we'd have a cup of coffee, and we'd come up with a topic and we just talk about it. And if you look at some of those recordings from 5 or 6 years ago, they weren't very good. My mom liked them, so that was great, and she would comment, but we wouldn't get great reach. There wasn't really a good opening or tips or any really kind of flow, but it was good practice for me. It helped me to get better and feel more comfortable talking in that way and putting things together, to fast forward to today, where, you know, we're a practice that focuses on kind of reaching in many different ways. But my main role comes into really talking the science and education side of it. We mix in reels, we mix in brand posting, stories, everything, you name it, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere. But really what I try to focus on is what I'm doing now is Wednesday night whiteboards, and
Yes.
still doing a lot of those coffee chats. But I love doing this concept of Wednesday night whiteboards. And really what it is what we've come to find in our practice is you can attract a lot of people to your page or to what you do or to your practice through reels, through cool stories, through testimonials, through Facebook and Instagram ads and things like that. But when they come to your page, they really need to see some substance of what you do. So I've started to create these Wednesday night whiteboards, and I've done them for about a year and a half now, where I really put together a topic, whether it be, you know, on for pediatrics, that would be on constipation, or whether it be on sensory issues, or whether it be on, you know, going deep on the vagus nerve and how that impacts behaviors and socialization, and unpacking that, putting a whiteboard behind me where it's a visual, and talking through some of the science with tips and tricks for, you know, 5 to 7 minutes each week, and then really repurposing that, whether it be on our website, whether it be in a Facebook ad, putting it in different places. And it's been so cool. And here's the encouragement I would tell you with it is, in terms of engagement live, whether it be on IGTV or on Facebook, you know, it still isn't mind boggling. I'm not having 100, 200 people hop on live with me where they're all listening, but the amount of patients, practice members that come in on their day 1 or day 2 and say, hey, you know, I saw that constipation video on your page, and that's what prompted me to give you guys a call, because I've been seeing your guys' reels and posts and following you for a long time, but that really related with me. It's been so cool to see that realm of it, to really mix in the science with all the cool things we're doing to share our brand and share our story within the community. So it's been really fun, but that's my primary focus right now. Whether that changes in the next 3 to 6 months, we will see, because there's been a lot of different different steps that's got us up to this point, and we just adapt with what you know, how we can reach people.
The evolution of marketing would tell us that it's going to be different in 12 months' time. But the strategy, I think, in which I talk about all the time, which is simply, you know, the more people that know you, like you, and trust you, the busier and more effortless your practice will be. And I think I want to clarify some of this for our listeners. Reels at the moment are a really fantastic way for people to get to know you and probably like you as well. You know, Instagram is pushing them out there, so it's getting you in front of people. But I might watch one of Matt's reels and go, I mean, that's kind of cool and quirky and fun, and, you know, that's sort of helpful information. But it's probably, unless I am immediately looking for a chiropractor and just at that tipping point, from watching one of Matt's reels, is probably not going to have me give the office a call. And so lots of chiropractors are, and then we get into the Whiteboard Wednesdays there too. There's that depth of information that I'm going to start to build a level of trust with Matt. And then also, this is an opportunity where we get to show some expertise and deliver value. We start to kind of evoke the law of reciprocity when we're being generous with that also. And so chiropractors often go heavy on the education, but miss the stuff up front. So nobody knows them, so no one's seeing it. Or the other way around there too. We're just doing these fun, quirky little videos there as well. And it's like, oh, those guys are cool there too, but they've not given me a reason why I should bring my kids to you as well. So, you know, Tony and I have chatted, and he's shared that strategy. And I think what you're doing there is brilliant. How do you come up for topics for your Whiteboard Wednesdays?
That's where the listening comes in, you know, and why it helps to be in practice. I don't think if I wasn't around kids all day, if I wasn't around moms and dads telling me what they're struggling with, I wouldn't have the topics, other than if I had to, you know, steal them from an article Tony wrote or look at that. There'd be a lot more Googling what's going on. But most of the topics that I get are a conversation I had with mom that morning
Yes.
or last week that I'll write down and say, okay, that mom had a really good question that took me a minute to really think about how I wanted to answer it. or that mom had a good question, because it was so relevant. And kind of the balance of that, of doing some relevant topics and doing some more deep rooted topics of, just different things to unpack them. And then really searching for ideas that way of what are the moms and dads telling me what should be the topics. And then, really playing that out and prepping that and say, okay, how can I, to your point, how can I give back? And not give them the answer that it's all about me or all about us, and say, okay, chiropractic's going to fix this. But what are some honest, things I can do to either encourage them that they're doing it right, or what are some tips and tricks they can even do at home to help with different things. And so we'll always try to make that very much a giving video or a giving Whiteboard Wednesday.
Okay, so let's get tactical in this. So you have a conversation in the morning with your parent, you go, that's going to be a great topic for a Whiteboard Wednesday. Do you make a note somewhere? Do you have somewhere that you kind of capture that at that stage, or is it good enough just to kind of keep it in the memory?
I write them right here. I got my passion planner right here. I write them in there, and just in that bottom section is whether it just be, whether it be a topic that, hey, a lot of people in my community right now are asking about immune struggles or allergies, let's say. Like if it was in the fall, like I'll have seen 5 patients and they're all a little stuffy, they're all a little congested. So I know, okay, allergies is a really hot topic in the community right now. This is something we need to unpack, because a lot of moms and dads are questioning, where are these coming from? Why are these happening? A lot of them might even be saying, oh, well, it's just seasonal, they're going to go away. So then that tells me, okay, I need to sit down later and unpack this and say, okay, how do I want to prep this out to really talk about allergies, but talk about it, how the nervous system is controlling the body and working through the body, that might help make this better or worse in different areas.
So there'll be a topic that comes up. And if I'm hearing you right, one of the things that you will want to do is, how do I relate this to what I do as a chiropractor and the role that chiropractic might have in supporting this? How can I give and share something that the patient can do at home that might not involve me at all, so I can be generous as well? Are there other things that you're looking for as well in terms of when you're wanting to share that information?
Normally how I'll do it is I'll find that. You have to find a way to make it a catchy title. I found,
yes,
like some kind of catchy title, catchy intro that's gonna attract them. For an example, I did a constipation one a couple of weeks back, and we titled it "Poop There It Is," and we put the poop emoji on it, and it's super out there, and people are like, why is he talking about poop in a? Then I had someone draw a poop emoji on my whiteboard, but it's kind of that okay, what is he talking about? This has got to be something different than a normal science talk on it. So getting that catchy title, and then in the prep, really breaking it down into, really an intro. I like to do about 3 action items, so that way I can put that in the title, like "Poop There It Is, 3 tips to help your child not struggle with constipation any longer." Right to the meat of it. And then we'll go over 3 tips. One of those tips is, a lot of times I'll end it with if the first 2 tips didn't work, like we need to look at the nervous system. We really need to look deeper. We'll talk, my first tip might be, we need to talk about movement. Is kids need to move. If they're not going to move enough, if they're sitting still, their body's not working through that motility, and it's not got enough movement to activate those digestive systems. The second one might be where we dive into diet and nutrition and kind of dispelling some myths, like it could be as simple as, a lot of people think bananas are great, but bananas aren't great when your kid's constipated so much, of talking through little things like that. And then encouraging the mom and saying, my guess is you've tried probably 1 and 2. You've tried variations of those things. And if you've tried those things, we would love to dive deeper, because here's the missing link. What we find with so many different kiddos, that the nervous system controls that gut motility. And if everything else has been tried, that probably means the communication somewhere in that nervous system is off, and the body's not talking to itself in the right way.
Many chiropractors, when it gets to that stage of talking about chiropractic and then inviting people into the practice, this is when the super awkward doc comes out. How do you deal with that in a way that has you just stay in service mode and with confidence and certainty? What's your approach?
That's an awesome question, because I struggled with this a lot. I found that videos where I would ask, or where I would jump to that, come into the office and see us, was a bit too much. So how I enter that conversation a lot right now is, I would love to talk about your child's individual struggles. I know every single child's a little bit different. I know every family's a little bit different, and I know you've tried different things. So we would love it if you just send us a DM, send us a direct message, reach out to us, and we'd love to talk about it. We would love to unpack that with you. That's something that's really helped me to, I think, feel more comfortable, where it's not selling my office, but it's saying, let's have a deeper conversation. We're here for you. We're right here. If you need it, we can enter that conversation. But I think that has really made it be less awkward, of more of a softer close in a lot of these, but it works the same way. We do get a lot of people that come in, but it's definitely not skipping to marriage first. It's just saying, hey, let's talk more.
Whenever I possibly can, I try to watch myself consume content and how I would build a relationship with a new person. And then how do I feel when somebody, as a general rule, teaches me something and then invites me to take the next step? And if they've been generous beforehand, if there's been connection beforehand, and if I feel like I've received value, I actually want to take the next step. It would be almost awkward if they didn't do it. I'm like, I bet that's the way that it is for my patients when I'm doing the same thing, that if I didn't tell them what to do next, there's an awkwardness. I've been playing recently with some of my community influencer members who struggle with this, to maybe think about finishing off with their call to action, because every video should have a call to action. You should never do a video without telling somebody what to do next, not for you, but for their sake as well. And a really easy one could be just as simple as, you get to the end of the video and then just say, hey, listen, there's 3 ways that I can help you, okay? If you like this material and you're looking for more of it, then head on over to our website. 2, if you've got any questions, then send me a DM. I can help you out there with any of your specifics. And 3, if you're ready for some one-on-one support, we would love to help that too. You can give the office a call on 96461414. So there's a really natural, easy way. So you get to the end of the video, hey, there's 3 ways that we can help you. If you like this content, you're looking more for it, head on over to our website, because we always want people to be sending traffic to our website, particularly from our socials. It'll help you with your SEO, all those kind of things. 2, if you've got specific questions, send me a DM. I'll get back to you. I love helping people. And 3, if you're ready for some one-on-one support, you can give the office a call, 96461414. It's not, you've given people, here's 2 free ways I can help you out, whether you be this side of the world or the other side of the world, there too, if you've just got a question. But I know there's some of you that just want to be invited into the practice. There it is. So if you're kind of struggling with a call to action, gang, that could be a really easy one. It rolls off the tongue nicely. Some of my community influencer members who are the most introverted dudes in the world are like, oh, I could do that. Yeah. So give it a go, Matt, if it feels good for you. And that could be a routine that you could finish every video off, like everything that you're doing. Remember, there's 3 ways I can help you. If you like these videos, there's a heap more of them on my website or, on my Instagram page. 2, if you've got a question, send me a DM. I can help you there. 3, if you're ready for some one-on-one help, come on into the office, 96461414. So there's nothing other than that. It's cool and helpful. So, yeah.
No, that's going to make me better. That's going to make me better. And on your point, I was writing this down, is feeling generous. I've had patients tell me this, is they appreciate our videos or our posts because they feel like we're providing value outside of what we do. Like they just appreciate that. And I think some of that is you have to be interesting. You do have to be engaging on it. You have to think about things like that they just might not know to provide, or else it becomes very stale content. And that would probably be, I would say, the hardest, other than that close, the hardest part sometimes about building these up is saying, okay, how can I really give them enough value in 5 to 6 minutes that they're going to appreciate making it all the way through the video?
I think sometimes too, Matt, we have to remind ourselves of most chiropractors are experts, and I mean like genius level experts when it comes to vitalistic health, and we know so much about it that it becomes a bit gray to us, and we don't understand like the concept of even you saying something like, look, maybe ease back on the bananas. It's like, that would be revolutionary for some parents, because they go, bananas, they're healthy, this is good, it's a fruit. It's kind of mushy. It might make sense that might help with my kid go to the loo there too. And when we share something like that, and even this concept of, the nervous system and what controls gut motility, keeping my child moving, those 3 tips to us are like, yeah, of course. Like, they just roll off, and that's because that's what we do with our kids. But we forget about just how foreign it is for the rest of the world. So this idea of saying, man, I've got to make it so super sexy and all this kind of stuff there too. For the vast majority of chiropractors, when I know this from coaching so many of them marketing, I go, you're brilliant. Okay. What the actual tips that you share are fantastic. You do need to juicy up the introduction. And that's just about creating a hook, and a brilliant hook of, poop, there it is, 3 things to, help your child with their constipation. That's it. Once we change the cover of the book, so to speak, and I've told this story again, but I want to remind our listeners, there was a book called Astrological Love that was written back in the 1980s. I can't think of the woman's name, but it was a dating book. And it was a complete failure. No success whatsoever. The publishing company that was bought out by another bigger publishing company, and they were kind of going through the assets of the old company. Someone found this book, read through it, and went, this is a brilliant book. Terrible title, because if I said to you, Astrological Love, what is it? Is it using the stars to kind of guide to find a partner there too? The book was renamed How to Thrill Your Woman and Have Her Beg for More Every Time. Okay. And it became an instant New York Times bestseller, sold something like 5 million copies, multiple different languages was translated into, and all they did was change the introduction of the video, so to speak. Okay, like, we got to get our head around this. Nothing else was changed but the first 6 seconds of your video. If you're going to obsess about anything, obsess about that. Don't obsess about your 3 points. Particularly me talking to you now, Matt, the 3 points you're going to share are going to be brilliant. But you've forgotten more great health information than most parents will ever know there too. But do obsess about getting that hook right at the beginning, because once you can catch people and they'll make a connection with you really quickly, then you deliver that value through, and then you roll into a really nice call to action at the end. It's great. And then if you do that consistently, you can't help but succeed with it there too. But if it is one thing that I obsess about, it's like, okay, I look at and listen to lots of different YouTube channels and their training there. The big channels on there spend more time designing their thumbnail than they do on the entire video. So, the video is like to shoot it, to edit it, all that kind of stuff. There might be 2 or 3 hours plus go into that. They spend at least that amount of time going into the thumbnail, which is the equivalent of our first, 6 seconds of the video, which is that new title of the book there. And it's one thing, and that's a skill set to come up with that. And I love poop. There it is as well. So,
and I love what you said. Realize how revolutionary what we do or what we know is. We found this true just in clinical care is what do we expect as chiropractors? We expect things to go well. So when that baby, starts to poop after 6, 7 visits, it's hard not to be like, yeah, that's great. Like, good job. Like that. You got to celebrate it. This is like the world, like to that mom. I know we get to see it every day. We get to see those miracles in practice, but man, like, that's something to celebrate, because that is the culmination of what we wanted to happen. And it's not revolutionary anymore to us. It's just what we expect. I'm going to adjust this kid in a few visits. He's going to be great. But to that mom, that's an awesome miracle. So it's so true in marketing and in practice, is sometimes we just get used to the miracles.
We become so immune to this. I'm helping a practice at the moment shoot a bunch of testimonials, and there are questions that I go through. And a really simple way to do this is to train your CA to, these are the questions, have a camera set up in one of your rooms, talk to the patient. Hey, can you share that? Yeah, great. Jump straight into the room there. And Hannah, in this situation here, will film it. And so Hannah was filming this filming this patient the other day, who she started off telling this story about how when she came in to see Dr. Miguel, that she could barely walk, and she certainly couldn't walk without a stick. She couldn't keep up with her husband. She'd tried bucket loads full of medication. And then, next question, since you've been seeing Dr. Miguel now, what's changed? She said, I'm walking without a stick now. I'm not on any pain medication. My life has completely changed. And then Hannah just went straight on to the next question. I'm like, Hannah, stop. This woman now is walking again without a walking stick. That's so, and she missed that. Because Hannah, like the rest of us, our CAs get used to this stuff as well, instead of stopping. And, she should have said to Phyllis, wow, and what is that? Because we want to, the secret sauce in any testimonial there too is what we refer to as the stakes. And that's STAKES, not the EAKS. We don't care about a story until we know what the stakes are. So, what does it mean when you have a child come to you that's constipated? Okay, that's a story in itself there too. But if the mother tells you that we were told from the pediatrician that if this doesn't clear up in the next 3 months there too, they're going to need to operate, and that operation often has these consequences and side effects as well. Now we've just had the stakes come in there. With Phyllis beforehand, the fact that she wasn't walking, what's at stake with that too? Well, the walk I have with my husband each and every day is the highlight of my day. It's the time that we get to connect together, and it's our special time. And when I'm not walking because of this leg pain there too, I don't feel like I get to connect and love my husband. Now I'm bought into the story. Got it. Yeah. So this is what we need to kind of really pull out. Now, often the challenge is that patients often don't connect what's at stake. But when we can get that out of the patients and have them understand it, and when we can bring it into a testimonial, all of a sudden it gets really, really powerful. And what I was saying with Miguel through to Hannah is that once Hannah starts to have a conversation, stop. And this should even happen. I might say I should be doing this on the phone. When somebody rings up and says, oh my God, man, my neck is just so terrible. I need to get an appointment with the doctor. Some practices will go, great, let's get you in. I've got an appointment at 9. I'm like, no, stop. Oh my God, that's terrible. You're in the right place. We see this all of the time here. Dr. Matt, who you're going to see today, is amazing with this. We've got an appointment at 9. Connect with them first. We stop doing this because we see that people get well all the time. There is, and same thing, look, I want to bring my little kiddo in who's been constipated. Oh, man, how are you coping with that? It's difficult, isn't it? Matters anyway, but you articulate it so beautifully there as well. Matt, bringing things all together as well, I would love to know, and you kind of touched on a little bit, what's your vision and plan for the next 12 months? What are you hoping to get better at? What are you hoping that your life looks like as you expand into this next 12 months?
I love that question. We have been in straight hustle mode the past, I feel really 6 months or so, but really working, character-wise. And I know we are just coached and blessed to be mentored by a lot of the same individuals, but I think really seeing the bigness of what we need to do, that God has put on, mine and Tony's hearts to do, is step into that. But in stepping into that, really make sure that I'm well grounded, that I know why I'm doing that I have a great base with my relationship with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Really making sure that's my basics, making sure my family is on the right track with that, so that way I can be at my best to move in to really scaling the things we need to do. And that's really where I think we get granular with what we want to do with PX. Yeah, we want to help pediatric practices grow immensely. We need practices within 100 miles of each other all around the US. We'd love to take them down to where you're at too, Australia and other places. But really just in the US, we're getting so many requests right now from parents that, hey, we need to find a pediatric chiropractor. It's hard to find one in certain areas. So growing that vision and training up offices to be bigger, have more impact. So making offices have more associates and be bigger and see more people, but also growing that. So that would be our vision for this year, is how do we grow the pediatric experience, not for the pediatric experience at all, but how do we grow it so that way parents that are looking for us, that are finding us, that so much so need a different alternative way, a different contrast to what they've been struggling with in the medical system or any other system, how do they find us and be able to utilize that in the right way, where they can just get results and they can, really get hope, and that can really just as BJ Palmer said, you never know how far reaching. And that's really what we have to do, is how do we build that base to help more kids and families. But that's kind of the start of it this year. And gosh, I need to look further past that. I think that's where, I have to rely on mentors and coaches to remind me, because it's very easy to get stuck in the weeds of what's going on today and within the next month or the next 6 months.
I can see, Matt, one of the other things that Tony said to me in the message that he shared with me about you is there are many days that Matt is my most favorite person in the world. Now, hopefully Christina doesn't get this far into the, if she's listening there too, I should have given a warning, quick, turn this off. But I can really see why that is. So thank you for all the brilliant work that you do. It was a wonderful opportunity for me to chat with you as well. I can see why Tony speaks so very, very highly of you. But you have a wonderful afternoon in practice. Keep saving lives. See you soon.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.